What is going on, everybody? Welcome to Eagles Post-Game Live. Eagles get the W 20-16. We've got a lot to dissect in this one. Some good, a lot bad, leading with Nick Sirianni. We're going to break it all down. Joining us, he is Shane. Go give him a follow on Twitter at ShaneHalfNFL on X. What's up, man?
What's up, guys? I'm just repping my number 11 jersey. That's definitely not a Carson Wentz jersey because I'm too cheap to buy another one, and I'm pretending it's an A.J. Brown jersey to celebrate that catch. So here we go, wearing my not Carson Wentz jersey on the post game to celebrate A.J. Brown. Let's go.
Celebrating one of the worst, beating one of the worst, most dysfunctional teams in the league at home after the bye by 4 points. Nick, what are you doing, man? We're going to show a clip of this really soon. Also joining us, he is Ryan Reese of Philly Sports Alliance. Give him a shout out on X at Philly Sports PSA. What's good, Ryan?
It's hard to stay positive after seeing what we saw today. And again, another slow start. It's just it's a little unacceptable in my eyes.
Also joining us, last but not least, he is the Johnny Page at Johnny Page 9. What's up, Johnny?
Yeah, I enjoy Shane saying that he's wearing number 11 to celebrate the catch on the catch of the play call that he definitely hated massively. So even the celebrations are on bad plays these days. I'm actually very glad Ryan's here. I was going to try and force myself to be positive because I expected you two to be a little bit negative today. But I think actually I might be able to be a bit negative as well. So if Ryan can just bring some positivity, then we can moan. That'll be wonderful.
All right, we got to watch this real quick. This was moments after the Eagles got the W.
2 road games coming up at the Giants, at the Bengals, while the Cleveland.
As Nick Sirianni chirps to the fans. Shane, lead us off, man. Initial reaction. Nick Sirianni, does he need to go?
What a clown. I mean, somebody should definitely tell him that the Browns are one of the worst teams in the NFL that are definitely in contention for the number 1 pick. And the Eagles were favored by like 9.5, which is the largest spread this year. And it came down to the end. So definitely not a performance that you should be chirping at your hometown fans over. So my take on Sirianni there is that's just clownish behavior. But my take overall on the game is, the defense did what they should. The defense held the Browns to 9 points, and you know it's Deshaun Watson, and it's an offense that's pretty dysfunctional. And so you would want to see the defense look good, and I thought the defense did look pretty good. We saw pressure at times, and Watson takes a lot of bad sacks, so he contributed to some of that. But on the defensive side, I don't think you can take too much from it because it is the Browns, but it's at least a semi-encouraging performance. Offensively, man, it's just tough. I really don't like the offensive approach in the game. I just, you start the game slow once again, and I know the end of the if you take out the block field goal, you went field goal, touchdown, long drive, and then you opened the second half with a 3 and out, and then you went field goal drive, touchdown drive, long drive to end the game. It's like the offense moved the ball, and on an EPA per drive basis, if you look at Jalen Hurts EPA per play, these were good games. And so your good game against a bad team just needs to be more than a 4-point win, though. You can't keep doing this every week. So I thought there were encouraging signs from the offense, but there's still just also really frustrating things.
What about you, Johnny? Quick reaction.
Yeah, I might be a little bit opposite of Shane, actually. So maybe it'd be a good one for us to talk about in the week. I sort of didn't hate the offense, actually. There's just a lot of good, and then there's a lot of terrible sprinkled in. But I think people have sort of underestimated the Browns' defense because they've been put in horrendous spots this year. They're still a pretty good defense. I think EPA, they're top 10. They're basically middle of the pack in everything else. And I think Hurts was 0 for 5 at the start. He ended up 16 for 25 for 264. So if you take out the incredibly annoying first couple of drives, the running game did not work today, and I've got quite a lot to say about that. But there's positivity sprinkled in. And even though the defense ended up not giving up many points, I still don't really like the defensive identity. And in particular, their run defense as well. So it's a weird game. I think people that are negative are going to come down really negative. People that are positive are going to say we won. And I think a lot of us in the middle are going to be like, yeah, they won and they should have won, but there's still a lot of flaws with this team.
It's the way they come out in the first quarter, in the third quarter. It's the scripted plays. They always seem to just shoot themselves in the foot. They throw on first down rather than utilize Saquon Barkley. It seems like every time Nick Sirianni kind of gets out of his own way, and then you kind of see the offense be a little more Kellen Moore. I could be completely wrong with that, and I usually am. That's when this offense seems to get going. But when are we going to see like 4 quarters of consistent play? We've been waiting for it all year. That's my take, is this team is never prepared, and they just never can get it consistently on both sides of the football. What about you, Ryan? Initial takes?
Yeah, listen, we finally saw Jalen Hurts protect the ball. Didn't have any interceptions, no fumbles, technically. And that, I think, might be a little bit more worrisome, is the fact that we had a turnover-free game and still only won by 4 points. And honestly, it could have certainly been a tie ball game there if the Browns had, any sort of balls to go for it there for the touchdown. So it's definitely, there's a lot to worry about, and I am trying to stay positive as much as I can. So on a positive note, Bryce Huff has to have a sack. Woo! Let's go. He's here.
Ryan's
we can no longer say that he has the same amount of sacks as Hassan Reddick.
Right.
All right, guys. If you're new to the channel, make sure you subscribe to the Eagles Pinpoint Network. We're on Twitter. We're on YouTube. We started this thing. Please help us grow it. We're here every single day, essentially bringing Eagles content. So make sure you give us a shout out, a follow, subscribe, all that fun stuff. Guys, keep commenting your thoughts on the game. Let's jump to Jalen Hurts. Great Jalen Hurts. Just kind of dissect everything we saw from him. 16 of 25, 264 passing, 2 touchdowns, 1 sack. He did have 14 carries for 33 yards. I'll throw it to you, Johnny, first. How would you grade Jalen Hurts and his performance?
Yeah, I'd go B. That sounds about right. People can hate the down the field shots, but the thing is they're really good at it. And it's all very well saying like it only works for AJ Brown, but it's like, yeah, they also have AJ Brown, so it's allowed to work because they have him. Like, they're so good on that. And I think Hurts does deserve a little bit more credit than he gets. Like, he throws a really nice deep ball. There's a really nice velocity. And it comes down like in a really easy way for, I think, a good receiver to catch it. Running like 14 for 33 looks a bit naff, but I think there was a few QB should we say tush pushes in there, which sort of make it look worse than it was. After we got over the start, I think he was okay. It's still just a question of whether the offense is hamstrung because Hurts can't do more, or simply because they're just not that great coaching, including Sirianni. So it's so hard to judge. Like, I think when you look at what he was asked to do today, he did fine. I don't think he was the problem. So I'll give him a solid B.
B for Johnny. We have comments in here saying best Jalen Hurts game in a while. There was a stretch where he looked really good. It's just the focal point of the offense has to be those short passes, getting the ball out of Hurts' hands quickly, utilizing Saquon. Way too many vertical offense still in this one. I don't understand it, but as soon as I feel like the Eagles finally got into a rhythm, not 4 quarters of it, but there were times in this game where he was excellent. What about you, Ryan? What's your grade on Jalen Hurts?
Yeah, I'll go A-. Honestly, I thought, the fact that he didn't turn the ball over, the fact that he was really good with those downfield, 14 carries technically seems like a lot. That might be the kind of discouraging thing there, but as Johnny said, it's including some of the tush pushes and all of that. So, but yeah, honestly, I thought he was, did really well considering he didn't have Dallas Goedert for essentially the whole game. That certainly would have helped, with the middle of the field there and some of those short passes. And, then obviously with Fred Johnson playing essentially the fourth quarter there, he only gave up 1 sack, which is also encouraging. So yeah, I thought this was probably one of his better games this year, honestly.
What about you, Shane?
Yeah, I'll give him an A. I thought it was a really good game from Jalen Hurts. It's his highest EPA performance since the Cardinals game last season. So I thought he played really well. If you remove the 0 for 5 start, which is a problem, and you can't do that, but if you remove the start where I felt like we're forcing deep shots downfield just because that was the game plan, because we know they're going to play single high, Hurts ends the game 16 of 20 for 264 yards and 2 touchdowns. He takes 1 sack, rushes for 33 yards, no turnovers. manages the last drive well. I love that little speed option out of the pistol with the little fake pitch. That was a nice read by Hurts. I love that his mentality was, I'm going to keep this and go get the first down. I feel like sometimes when they run like the read option, he doesn't make defenders commit. He allows them to kind of be in the middle and make a play on both. And on that one, I love that the defender tries to play the middle, and so he fakes the pitch and just goes and gets it himself. Wasn't tentative in that situation. I thought it was a really solid game from Hurts, so I'll give him an A.
Let's kind of like piggyback off of that and get into Kellen Moore and his offense. It was interesting to hear the Fox broadcast talk about Nick Sirianni and his play calling during this game. As we've been told, this is Kellen Moore's offense. They still don't utilize the middle of the field enough. It was good to see Calcaterra kind of show signs of life. But at the end of the day, like it's still frustrating how this team, this offense is so reluctant to utilize the crossers, the drags, like the short passes, the slants. And they don't realize it's part of the offense until way too late. Johnny, any thoughts on Kellen Moore and this offense today?
Yeah, I think, and I might have to rewatch this. I will have to rewatch it, but I think the Eagles looked pretty good against the blitz today. I thought we saw some Kellen Moore options in the short game. He had one to Calcaterra on the left side when they brought pressure from the backside, and it was an obvious pressure, and Hurts knew it was coming. Eagles Eric chiming in with what I was going to say about mesh. They run mesh really well, and like every other team can run mesh. The Eagles coach it really well, so credit to the coaching staff. Like they really, really teach their players to sort of run that drag route or shadow crossing route, whatever you want to call it, really well. Some of the run game from under center and pistol was really good today, which is where my head's a little bit scrambled. It was like every time and I have to rewatch again, but every time they went shotgun, I swear the running game went nowhere. And then when they went pistol, we saw like a lot of outside zone toss that I've been calling for. Then we saw a little bit of play action from pistol that I tweeted like, we're finally getting it. And the Eagles got a big play on it. But then they never go back to it again. It's like, I struggle because I see something good. I'm like, oh, do more of that, build off it. And I think they had one toss play where they faked like a toss to the right from pistol and then they tossed it to the left. And Barkley had loads of room. They had another run from pistol with Kenny Gainwell. And I was like, I'm sort of enjoying some of the offense, but then sprinkled in between that, there's just a bunch of random stuff that looks, it is last year. Shane will know how many times I reckon they called crash today. We spoke about crash so often last year, Shane, and I reckon they called it like 8 times today. And it wasn't like they were using motion and like changing how they were running it. They were just running the same stuff. Like I think the slot fade to AJ Brown is cool because we didn't see that a lot last year. We saw much more just like line up AJ Brown outside the numbers and throw it deep to him. I think seeing him run a slot fade was cool, and the way they used Dallas Goedert. No, not Dallas Goedert. He was injured. I think it was Calcaterra, like sort of a late shift to get AJ Brown that sort of one-on-one matchup in the slot as well was cool. So there's good stuff, and I hate saying the same thing every week. I just don't know whose offense it is, so it's so frustrating to criticize. I just wish for like my personal sake, Sirianni had gone and it was just Moore's offense because then I can actually analyze what I can see. And I've said it every week, but I'm even going to include Stoutland in that because I struggle even with the run game because it looks like a very stout run game to me, which has been shotgun, a lot of like pinball stuff. And I don't really think that's the way this team is built either. To me, they want to be more of a Kellen Moore outside zone. And when they did that today, that looked like the best part of the offense. So I'm looking forward to rewatching it and seeing if maybe there's something they can build on. But it still feels like they're trying to run 2 offenses at once. And that just makes it so hard for guys like us to really be honest about what we can see.
Yeah, that's the $1 million question right there. Like, who's in charge of this offense? And I don't know if we know. It's pretty, I think, obvious what's going on. We have a comment here saying the last drive is getting people twisted. The offense looked really bad for large stretches of the game.
I don't agree with that.
Go ahead, Shane.
So the Eagles had 8 drives where they were trying to score. So I'm excluding the kneel down at the end of the first half. I'm excluding the possession where they ran the clock out at the end. So 8 drives where they're trying to score. Without that field goal getting blocked, they put up 23 points. So that's not terrible. If you include that last drive for yardage, they had 42 yards per drive. That's not an anemic performance. And the Browns are a good defense. This was one of the best defenses in the league a year ago, and they're missing a couple of safeties today, and that's important. But Schwartz is a good defensive coach, and he's stacking the box, which makes it hard to run. He's challenging your receivers outside, and early in the game, they were winning those matchups. And the Eagles are a team that's built to run the ball first. And so if you can take that away, stacking the line of scrimmage, it makes it difficult, and it exposes you to this high variance game of just chucking up deep balls. And once the Eagles stopped settling for those deep balls, the first 2 drives, I thought the offense actually looked really good for the majority of the game. If you just exclude this beginning of the game plan where, heavy box, we're going to chuck it deep. And, it works at the end of the game, and we can talk about that play call because I'm interested to hear your guys' thoughts on that. Actually, I'm just going to hijack this and pull that. Look at me. I'm the captain now. What did you guys think? What did you guys think on that play call? So you come out of the 2-minute warning. It's 2nd and 11. The Browns have 1 timeout left. I tweeted during the 2-minute warning that you can basically, if you don't get the first down, but you also don't throw an incomplete pass, you're punting with 1:15 left, and the Browns wouldn't have a timeout. Now, I'm not saying I would play for the punt. I actually said I would try to get Hurts rolling out of the pocket so he can hit an open receiver or he can run it, but we don't really want to risk an incompletion. They come out and take a shot to A.J. Brown downfield. I personally did not like that call. It obviously worked out, and A.J. Brown's a fantastic deep ball tracker, and the ball's underthrown, kind of like the touchdown. A.J. Brown's so good at subtly slowing down and stacking that cornerback on his back to create that window to catch. So it's great execution by A.J. Brown. That's not the call I would have made. I don't really like it. I would definitely be really upset about it if it fell incomplete. Where are you guys at on that? What did you like the call? I mean, the Browns are giving you the deep ball, and I think they're doing it for a reason there. And you're playing with fire, obviously, but what did you guys think? Ryan, is that a good decision? Would you have done something else there? What are your thoughts?
Yeah, I feel like I can go back and forth and convince myself one way or the other, but I think ultimately you're trying to catch them off guard, and yes, throwing a deep ball there is probably what's going to catch them the most off guard. But I feel like, I don't know. I wouldn't personally have done it. I would have personally have probably done what you said, roll Hurts out, and unless you have a wide open, and even then it's still whatever, I'd still have Hurts probably run. I don't hate it at all. I understand the thought process. I just think it's maybe a little bit too risky for the situation. That's all.
Johnny?
Yeah, I think the word over-aggressive, as we know, with Sirianni and Eagles organization. Shane, I'm trying to work this out, and you're better at this stuff than me. So they had 1 timeout left, right? So
Correct.
Let's assume, for argument's sake, because I think if you're going to moan about the play call, I think then you sort of have to accept that they shouldn't throw it. I feel like, I don't know, maybe I'm being picky, but if you're going to say to the quarterback, throw it, and then he throws it and completes it, you can't really be like, well, not that throw. I feel like you either accept that you're going to run it. So let's say the Eagles run it twice, because I think the odds are they run it once, and then it doesn't go anywhere because the Browns stack the box, and then you're looking at 3rd and 10, and I can't see you just coming out and dropping back in the standard drop back. So if they basically ran it twice, where would we be? So there'd be, 1:10, and then you're saying the Eagles would punt it to the Browns.
Yeah, 40-second play clock, so you're probably looking at 1:15 when you punt the ball. So Browns get it with 1:10 left, no timeouts.
Yeah, it's interesting because if you ask me, what's a higher percentage chance the Eagles defense breaking in a minute, or the Eagles completing a deep ball to AJ Brown? I'm not sure there's that much difference. And by the way, you are guaranteed to get single coverage. And second, if you want to be smart, and I think this is classic, overthink it. But if you want to be over aggressive, the 2nd and 11 in that situation, you are guaranteed to get no safety deep, doubling up on AJ Brown. So it is a straight up buddy ball 1-on-1. And I disagree with you a little bit. Saying the throw was underthrown. It was slightly underthrown. He had to slow down slightly, but it also landed right in the bucket on the inside shoulder as well. So I don't know. It's obviously, I'm sure the analytics guys are shouting at me because I'm sure it's not great. I think the interesting comment is the idea they could have just thrown a short ball and it's guaranteed to be complete. And you're well, anything can go. I basically think if you accept you're going to throw it, then you accept it may be incomplete. There is no such thing as a guaranteed completion. We've saw this with Saquon Barkley a few weeks ago, running the most easy play call ever. I think if you're basically accepting you throw it, then you can't moan about the play call. So I think the argument is a binary, and I'm making it binary because why the hell not? To me, it's run, punt, or run, first down, And in some ways, I'm like, do you know what? Second 11, if you give me one-on-one coverage of AJ Brown and we're going to say we can win the game, then maybe I'll do it.
Yeah. I will say, if you are going to take the shot, do it on second down, not third down.
Yeah.
So if you want to take it, that's the time to take it. It's not the call I would have made. I'm not in love with it, but I mean, that's why you go get an AJ Brown, right? Is he can make those types of plays for sure. So anyway, I was just curious what you all thought on that.
Here's the play. We'll go through it real quick. I would not have done that again. I mean, the all verticals. It's just too much PTSD from last year. This is the problem I have, kind of piggybacking off of what Johnny had to say. There's too much inconsistent within this offense where there are times when it looks great and then they'll go these deep balls over and over and over again. So for me, not the route I would have gone. We're getting a lot of comments in agreement. Let's keep rolling. Let's keep rolling into this Eagles Browns game and go to Saquon Barkley, who finished with 18 carries on 47 yards. Doesn't pass the eye test. I thought he was better than that. I'll throw it to you, Shane, first. What were your thoughts on the Eagles run game and Saquon Barkley?
Yeah, I thought the run game struggled today. And again, Myles Garrett's a monster, and he's not the only good guy on that Browns defensive line. And it's a team that's going to stack the box. So it was tough sledding in the run game. Teams have been able to get the Browns in the running game a little more this year, and I have not closely watched the Browns to know why, but it didn't make sense to me that their run defense was lower because that's the one thing you think with a Schwartz team. +1 in the box, we're going to play the run game really well, and I thought that's exactly what they did today. They wanted to make the Eagles beat them outside the numbers. The problem with that is that's the place the Eagles kind of want to beat you anyway. So I thought the run game struggled by and large. I liked seeing them get into pistol a little bit, which Johnny mentioned. Kenny Gainwell had a nice run out of pistol. You run that speed option out of pistol. They had a nice play action boot out of pistol. So I thought that was when the running game was at its best today, was out of pistol. And I'd like to see that fleshed out a little more.
What about you, Ryan?
Yeah, listen, obviously the Browns certainly can be a very good run defense. And I don't know, I just felt like it seemed like they didn't really have a very good game plan to kind of counteract that front seven of the Browns. Personally, I'm always sad to see any carries by Kenny Gainwell, regardless of whatever happens.
Yeah, okay.
I'm sorry, I'm never going to support Kenny Gainwell carries, never. But yeah, I just think when you look at the overall run game and the fact that Hurts pretty much has almost the same amount of carries as Saquon, and Saquon clearly struggled mightily. I'm surprised they didn't go more, passing heavy once they kind of realized that the run game wasn't working. It's funny, whenever the run game does work, they seem to go away from it and then go to pass. But whenever it's not working, they're like, no, let's just keep running. You can't really get a good read off of what the hell they're doing. So,
all right. What about you, Johnny?
Yeah, controversial take. I didn't think Saquon Barkley was very good at all today. Saquon Barkley's been the Eagles' best offensive player for 4 weeks, so it's hardly like panic station. But he obviously had the horrendous 2nd-and-1 play, which was a total disaster. But there was about 3 or 4 plays where he ran straight into his offensive lineman. There was a 3rd and 2, I remember distinctly, where he went down really easily and it ended up with 4th and 1. I didn't think it was a good Saquon game at all. I think the run game, I think I might actually do the old school tracking this week. I might literally make a note of every single run they ran from pistol versus shotgun. And I'm like, because I sort of need to know for my own sanity, because it just looks so much better when they ran from pistol. There was one play that really annoyed me. There was I think they ran I can't remember if it was counter, it might have been pinball, but they ran an outside run to the right. And the Browns had 6 men on the offensive line, and it ended up meaning that Myles Garrett just wasn't blocked. And the Fox announcer, who I thought was sort of hopeless, to be honest, maybe that's harsh.
But hey, it was his 500th game.
Yeah, no, not that one, to be fair. The other one was even worse. But yeah, anyway, and he said they're not even blocking Myles Garrett. And I was like, I mean, to be fair, he's sort of got a point and he can see it. But I saw it before the snap. they just had 6 men. I'm pretty sure it was a 6-man front, and the Eagles were like, "Yeah, we're going to make no adjustments and just run it, and we can't block them because we haven't got enough men to block them." And I was like, "What is happening? Like, can you guys remember the play? Do you know the one I'm talking about, where Myles Garrett just ran straight through?" And I'm pretty sure that they just had too many men to block on the line, and the Eagles just made no adjustment to it and just ran the play. So I was like, "Oh, okay." Like, and then it's like 2nd and 13, and then it's 3 and out. And it's like, yeah, the Eagles had some good stuff in the running game. I'm still going to annoy people. I just want more Hurts design carries. I'm sure they did it twice today, like proper design, not read option. They ran one on like 2nd and 12, and Hurts got like 10 yards, and it was QB. I think it was QB Pimple with Saquon Barkley as like a lead blocker. And I think they ran the same play later on. I think the interesting thing is I'm sure you guys are the same if you happen to watch a lot of the Eagles defense under Schwartz. I know how teams used to run on Schwartz's defense a lot because I watched it a lot. And it was a lot of draw plays, quick hitting like trap, wham, basically take advantage of the aggression. And when the Eagles are running just like inside zone from shotgun, I was like, this is exactly how I wouldn't attack Schwartz's running defense. So I found that a little bit odd. And again, I don't know who's specifically to blame for that. Whereas some of the stuff where they ran like outside zone toss plays, I'm like, yes, that's good because you can try and get the edges coming upfield and then you can run it past them. And so there was like some plays where I'm like, they're really well prepared. And then other times they just run inside zone from the shotgun because it feels like they have to do it like 15 times a game. So all in all, the running game was mixed, but I didn't think it was a good Saquon Barkley game. I don't think there's anything to worry about. I think just sometimes good players don't play particularly well. And I don't think today was his game.
There's, I mean, the sequence that leads to the blocked field goal is a lot of Barkley too. I mean,
yeah,
he steps out of bounds short of the marker and you just got to reach the ball out and get it. But then you come out on 3rd and 1 and there's like 30 seconds left and the Eagles had timeouts. And the Brown, first of all, I would tush push there, call a timeout, and then you can work with the new set of downs. But the Eagles try to throw and everything goes deep. And Saquon Barkley whiffs on his block. But even if he didn't whiff, there's an unblocked guy because it's a 0 blitz. I hated that whole sequence too. I hated it for Barkley. I didn't like it from a play call standpoint. It's like they were in the clearest cover 0 look you could have ever seen pre-snap. And you've got A.J. Brown at the bottom of the screen being given 10 yards of cushion on 3rd and 1. Like you could throw a smoke screen to him or a slant route and it's an easy first down and he's a broken tackle away from a touchdown. So you just saw things like that kind of stack up and it's ultimately why the Eagles scored 20 points instead of 35 points in this game because the offense moved the ball. Just a lot of little mental errors like that.
Dibs, can I just add quickly that we have a comment from Zachary, and I can't remember the play I was talking about, the Garrett TFL. It may have been a zone read, it may have been an RPO as well. I must admit, without the All-22, I can't remember seeing it that well. If it was a zone read, wouldn't shock me if Hurts read it wrong, because we've got a lot of years of footage now that Hurts is not particularly good at it, and they still continue to run it. So if it was the case, that makes me feel a little bit better, because I was just literally a bit bemused. Like, why are they running straight into a 6-man front? And it would make sense, actually, if they had a chance to do something. Maybe there was a bubble screen, maybe it was an RPR or a zone read. I didn't see much gap scheme today. Like, I'm old school. I want to know, if I'm an offensive lineman, I want to know going out in the huddle, we're running at this play. I think there's something quite cool about that mentality, just knowing that you're running power or counter. And I still just don't see a lot of it. So yeah, if that is the case from Zachary, so firstly, thank you for the comment, because it may have made me look less of an idiot. But when I go back and watch it, I'll find out exactly what happens. So yeah, it may be that it was a zone read or an RPO.
All right, Eagles receivers, A.J. Brown, 6 receptions for 116 yards and a touchdown. Devontae Smith had that 45-yard touchdown in the fourth quarter. We had a Jahan Dotson sighting, actually made a nice catch on the sideline. There was that. Dallas Goedert got hurt. Shane, any thoughts on the receivers before we get into the defensive side of the football?
Grant Calcaterra, legendary game or something. I mean, I feel like Grant Calcaterra is one of those guys that Jalen Hurts trusts now. We saw him throw over the middle to Calcaterra 2 weeks ago against the Buccaneers. He hits him up the seam in this game. He ends up with 4 catches on 4 targets for 67 yards. So good performance from Calcaterra. It was nice to see Jahan Dotson. Didn't Jahan Dotson have 2 catches? My box score says 1, but Jahan Dotson. Oh, okay. The one was a run. It was the orbit motion. Was it a backwards pass?
Yeah, I think so.
Okay, yeah, it's showing up as a rush. I was going to say I could have sworn that was to him. So he's got a nice play on that one. Nice play on the scramble drill to Hurts, and he's able to drag that toe, which, by the way, again, the announcers, I love the announcers are like, it looks like he got his foot down while simultaneously showing a high-res footage where you can see grass flying off the ground for like 4 feet from the sideline when he's dragging his toe. So shout out to them for being like, I think he got his toe down, but that was a nice play. That's the kind of play that builds trust with the quarterback that we've talked about. I think he needs that trust. And so you make yourself available on a scramble drill like that. You make that tough catch on the sideline. That's nice to see from Jahan Dotson. And, you know, his opportunities are going to be limited now with A.J. Brown and Devontae Smith back, but it's good to have him able to make those plays. Hopefully he can build off of that.
Ryan, any thoughts on the receiving group?
Yeah, listen, it was great to have Brown back. Great to have Smitty back. I agree that Calcaterra seems to be in the trust tree. Hey, as long as it's not Stoll, I'm pretty good with that too. It just sucks. Dallas certainly got hurt early. I think that would have kind of changed the game going forward. As Dallas certainly seems to be gaining a lot of trust from Hurts as far as the middle of the field goes. So, but yeah, it would have been nice to see him out there. But overall, I thought they did pretty good. Brown again, so amazing to have him back. He's special.
Yeah, I think that's the lesson we all learned. I think we undervalued, at least on my end, how critical A.J. Brown is to this offense. John, any thoughts on the receiving group?
Yeah, I've said for ages, and I feel really mean every time I say it, but I hate the 1A, 1B, AJ Brown and Devontae Smith comments. It's not. Like, I'm sorry, I love Devontae Smith, but AJ Brown is completely on a different level. Like, it's not 1A, 1B, it's 1 and 2, and AJ Brown makes an absolutely ginormous difference to the offense. Ryan had a really good point there. The Eagles basically seem to have like quite specific roles for players. So AJ Brown runs a lot of vertical routes. Devontae Smith runs a lot of like the crossing, shallow, and really Dallas Goedert is the middle of the field guy. So when we're saying like where is the middle of the field, when Dallas Goedert goes out, they don't really have anyone they use in the middle of the field. Like you don't see AJ Brown running a lot of deep digs and stuff. He's so vertical, like almost to a floor. So yeah, I thought AJ Brown was basically just like doing AJ Brown things. I wish they designed more plays for specific players to get them going. Like Jahan Dotson must hate it here. He's done nothing wrong on film. He looks fine, but they don't. I see people asking me like, "Is he not?" And I'm like, he's just not really getting a look in. They don't like design plays. I mean, I guess they designed one for him today, and it was a run. But yeah, I think the receiving core is overall still pretty good. I think tight end 2 is going to be a humongous need next year for this team. I think Goddard's health and stuff. I think this team has been lacking a second tight end for a long, long time. And to be honest, I wouldn't even say if they think they can compete this year, it's not the worst thing in the world looking out on the trade market for a veteran who can give them more. But Shay mentioned that Calcaterra is now trusted, so at least he can do that. The problem with Calcaterra is if you play him as your tight end 1 when Goddard goes out, the guy cannot block. And I wonder when we rewatch this game, how many of those running plays Calcaterra is a net negative, because if he's your tight end 1, you almost like struggle to run from 11 personnel because he really can't give you anything as a blocker.
We have a comment. Why don't they run more middle of the field action as it's available, and seemingly every team uses it heavily outside of the Eagles? Anybody? Shane, you're up. Thanks for raising your hand, by the way.
Yeah, because they do not go under center and run the ball. Therefore, they can't go under center and run play action. Like, when you look around the rest of the league and you watch the Packers, you watch the 49ers, you watch the Lions, there's other teams that do it, but those are the ones that come to mind right now. It's under center running, and then under center play action opens that up. Shotgun play action is just not as effective at manipulating the middle of the field to be open. And so when you combine the fact that Hurts is a shorter quarterback that doesn't like to throw over the middle as much, with the fact that they're not using the biggest cheat code to unlocking the middle of the field in the game, under center play action, that's why they don't throw middle of the field much. It's really hard to do for a quarterback of Hurts's stature without the benefit of running under center, which the Eagles just don't do for whatever reason.
Anybody else?
And exactly what he said. basically. Yeah, I don't need anything else. The stats we said. If people listening now haven't heard our conversation with BLG that Shane said, and I repeat it wrong, Shane, we are 0 yards from under center before this week, and the 31st team was 101.
Correct. Yeah, before this week, the Eagles ranked last in the NFL with 0 rushing yards from under center, excluding QB sneaks. The number 31 team had 101 yards. So the Eagles do not run the football under center. They just
that is full on like outlier. That is very unique, and also Hurts being small. It means that you can't really run a lot of the stuff that people want to see.
So that again, going back to that $1 million question. What part of this offense is Nick Sirianni have his hand too much into this offense? Is it more Jalen Hurts and his limitations, and their offense recognizing that? Like,
that's impossible.
I thought that was a big part. I thought that was a big part of Kellen Moore's offense. We would see more Hurts under center.
It absolutely is. I watched a lot of Kellen Moore. It's outside zone under center, then run play action. And if it is Hurts, I've said this a Shane. The thing is, there's no right answer, because if it is a Hurts problem, then you hire the wrong coach. So like either way, it's bad. If it is a Jalen Hurts problem, then why the hell did you hire Kellen Moore? Like, I liked Kellen Moore when I watched him. What they're running now is like not really Kellen Moore's offense. So if you knew you were going to go into the season, like, embrace it. Like, go and hire a guy whose entire scheme is shotgun. Like, embrace. If you've got a quarterback that you've paid big money to who says he can't do something, then embrace it. And it doesn't mean we have to like it. But at the end of the day, I just really struggle because they absolutely hired an offensive coordinator who runs a ton of under center outside zone stuff. He's way more to Shanahan, sort of old school than you think. And they don't do it. So it's like, no one can tell when we sit on podcasts discussing things, but I don't think there's a good answer. As in, whoever's at fault. I also find it a bit harsh just to blame Hurts because, I don't know, like, is there a flaw in Hurts that he's that bad when he turns his back for 2 seconds that he physically can't do anything from under center? Like, if he doesn't like it, I mean, I don't like lots of things in life, but people that get paid to tell me to do things, tell me to do things. Like, someone said, listen, Jalen, you can run 9 to 10 snaps from under center. Like, shut up, put your big boy pants on and deal with it. So, like, I don't know. Is Jalen Hurts really going out there going, I outright refuse. I can't turn my back for 2 seconds or I will instantly throw it to the other team. Like, I don't really get it. But no one can get it. And we'll go around in circles, unfortunately, until Sirianni is fired and Kellen Moore takes over, which may happen this year. It may not happen until the end of the year, but then we'll know. We will know. One day we will find out, because I'm still pretty convinced that Hurts will be here next year. And I'm more and more convinced that the scheme will not be run by Sirianni next year. So we'll find out. It just might be a very long, agonizing wait for us podcasters to actually see whether Hurts can do it or not.
Update.
Go ahead.
Oh, I'll respond to this comment real quick. Travis said that Brock Purdy's not any bigger than Hurts, and San Fran runs under center all the time. Well, that's the thing that, like, it's the under center running that opens up under center play action, which opens up the middle of the field. Brock Purdy is so good throwing to the middle of the field because that's the area of the field the offense is targeting. And there's a skill set to throwing middle of the field too. And maybe Hurts is just really bad at that. But even if he is, they're not using the number one thing that unlocks that for him in the way that the Shanahan style offense does. But anyway, update from the press conferences. We got a quote from Nick Sirianni saying, "We'll stay hungry and stay humble," from the coach that was doing this to his fans after beating the Browns by 4.
God, yeah. I am so done with Nick Sirianni. Like, coming out of halftime, I forget who it was. The lady was saying she talked to Nick Sirianni about what they need to do for the second half for the Philadelphia Eagles, and said something along the lines, the Eagles need to, or Nick said, the Eagles need to clean it up. And I just was ready to flip my table. I'm that's the title of the show. Time to punt Nick Sirianni to the moon. I'm just done. Whether that's Vic Fangio or Nick Sirianni, I'm just done. Let's roll on to the defensive side of the field. Some good, some bad. The defensive line had some pretty solid moments in this one, especially on the interior. Jalen Carter got his first sack of the season. I thought as the game went on, there were some struggles for sure. I'll throw it to you, Johnny, first. Where do you want to go on discussing the defense?
Yeah, I think Deshaun Watson was 10 for 10 in the second half. Can someone
confirm?
At one point, he was 10 for 10 on that last drive before the incompletion. I'm not sure what his final numbers ended up being.
As soon as the Browns in the second half learned that they can just run outside, and especially towards Avante, I was like, shit, here we go.
Yeah. Yeah, so where do I want to go to defense? God, big question. I mean, they played like okay. They only gave up what? Did they give up a touchdown? I guess they didn't, did they? So the problem is it's so hard to deal with anyone because the Browns are playing with the worst quarterback I think I've ever seen at a professional level. And he's also a sexual predator. So the two things don't go together very well. He is utterly, utterly hopeless and a horrible human being. So I'm extremely glad to see him suck. I really enjoyed it when he threw like 15 yards over the Amari Cooper's head and then blamed it on the idea like he was meant to run vertical. It's like, nah, you just overthrew that comeback route massively. And then you're saying like you should have run vertical. I'm convinced he just massively missed. Like, I don't know, the defense, I have a big problem with the way they play the run, and I think I have a big problem with how Fangio plays the run, because some of the people that I speak to say this is what he was like with the Dolphins as well. I look at their 4-down front, or their 4-man front, and I see so many gaps in their run fit. I think there was a play earlier on, I noticed it on second down, when I remember it, because I nearly threw something at the TV, and I saw that huge gap that I spoke about last week between the defensive tackle and the edge defender, and then the defensive tackle slant inside. And this gap is huge. And then they asked like the Kobe Dean to come flying into this gap that is absolutely massive. And he gets blown up and there's no one there. So their run fits kill me. I think they played one. They didn't really play much 5-man front today. And they did it like once or twice. And I saw Jordan Davis at nose tackle, and I saw Jordan Davis blow up the play. And I was like, why is he not a nose tackle all the time on early downs? But on the positive, Deshaun Watson had no idea that you can blitz the nickel cornerback. So every time they sent Cooper, DeJean, Deshaun Watson was utterly shocked that you're allowed to blitz the nickel cornerback. There was one play that I think, Shane, you might have clipped the play actually, that I quote tweeted, where Cooper DeJean is so desperate to blitz. He is not disguising it at all. He's fully left the slot receiver and he's just like creeping further and further and forward. And then when he blitzes, Deshaun Watson is still like, what? Where'd this guy come from? And
I will say there was another play that I was sure that he was blitzing because he did the same thing. And then he bailed back out at the snap.
There you go.
I don't know. Maybe he's just got the speed to be able to do that. But it was the play where Josh Sweat got the sack. And I tweeted out the clip because Nakobe Dean did a good job getting back underneath the receiver on the RPO. And Deshaun Watson double clutches it and gets sacked. But at the start of that play, Cooper DeJean like is a full 6 yards inside the slot receiver who is out wide in a stack, but he's like way inside, like I am blitzing, and then he didn't. So maybe that's just something he's going to do. I don't know.
I thought it was hilarious how the Eagles started blitzing off the edges, and the Browns just ran it up the middle, and the Eagles had no chance. It was like we finally get some aggressiveness from Vic Fangio, and it just blew up in our face.
I guess we might get to Cooper DeJean as well later. I don't know if he'll come up at all. Maybe even for Supplies Player of the Game. I don't know. But I thought he was fun. Like, he had a couple of run stops on the edge as well. Like, the guy runs around like a bit of a child at the candy shop, and he just looks really, really fun. So, I don't know. Definitely a fan of playing him over Maddox, and at least he brought, some element of fun to the defense today. I enjoyed watching him out
there. Deshaun Watson, unless I missed a pass, was 13 of 14 for 135 yards in the second half.
Yeah, okay. It's hard, isn't it?
He's arguably the worst quarterback I've watched, starting quarterback I've watched. And the fact that he was carving up, he was getting the ball a lot faster, I feel like, in the second half. And the fact that he did that, there's problems. I'll throw it to you, Ryan. Where do you want to go with discussion on the defense?
Honestly, I didn't think they were that bad. Listen, I know you look at them and you look at certain plays and all of that, and you could get weighted down in the mud with all of that. But at the end of the day, they gave up 9 points. They didn't give up a touchdown, and they kept Deshaun Watson to under 170 yards passing. They had 100 yards, I think, total between all their rushes. That's not bad. Under 300 yards total for I know the Browns aren't the world beaters or anything, but the Eagles defense isn't that great. So 9 points, I thought was that's the most important stat, right? So
I think
again,
I think the point is it's one of the worst offenses in football.
I mean, you're right. That's right. That you, if they would have given up 30 points to the worst, offense, then it'd be a little concerning, right? So they did the job that they were supposed to do, which is something that defense hasn't done really all season. Is they did what they were supposed to do. They held them to 9 points.
I like the first half defense way more than I like the second half defense. For the point where we saw the Eagles defense get the Browns into a lot of 3rd and longs, and we saw the Browns convert a lot of those 3rd and longs in that second half.
Sure.
Shane, any thoughts?
I'm going to say something that I might have to take back after I watch the All-22, but I doubt it. And that's that Cooper DeJean's performance in this game is a massive indictment of the Eagles' talent evaluation process, because there's simply no way that Avonte Maddox should have played over him for the first 4 weeks of the season. I thought, he was solid as a tackler. He gets 3 solo tackles. He's got a half a sack. We can talk about the attempt to tackle on that sack where he just thinks if he throws a shoulder into Deshaun Watson hard enough, he'll fall over. Like nobody's ever hit him that hard before. But I liked what I saw from Cooper DeJean, and maybe you amend that after I watch all 22. But the thing I was talking about earlier, where he bluffed the blitz in the same way that I thought he telegraphed the earlier one, I thought was a cool thing to see.
15.
I think he looked good. I thought, I really liked seeing Isaiah Rodgers make a hit on Deshaun Watson on the sideline, and not just because it's Deshaun Watson, but that certainly added to it. You've got Keely Ringo comes in and pops a guy on the sideline and then draws a penalty off of Amari Cooper on the very next play. And so I liked seeing some of the young guys out there. Nolan Smith, I thought, had some moments in this game. He had a sack. He got to the edge against a puller on that one play where Deshaun Watson's scoring a touchdown if Nolan Smith doesn't fight over that puller. So overall, it is what it is. We can talk about the offense they played, but I thought the defense was generally fine in this game, with the exception of Chauncey Gardner-Johnson. Chauncey Gardner-Johnson is so another bad game. Now, he does make a play on 3rd down on the slant route to David Njoku that ultimately gets the Eagles off the field, but him blowing up Quinyon Mitchell on what should have been an interception is a bad play. My son, he's 10U baseball, said that's why we're supposed to call it. And I was like, that doesn't generally apply to football, but that really was just like a lazy pop fly. He had a horrific tackle attempt on another ball downfield. And so little frustrated with Chauncey Gardner-Johnson over the last couple weeks. I do think Sidney Brown should push for some of his playing time when he gets back. Not that he can tackle either, but I would like to see a little more aggressive mentality. And Chauncey Gardner-Johnson got under my skin a little bit this game. But again, he does have the nice play on 3rd down that essentially gets the Eagles off the field for the last time. So I don't really know what to make of the defense overall, but I'm glad that I got to see Cooper DeJean play this week.
I've said it 1,000 times. I'm going to say it again. I am so out on CJ Gardner-Johnson, and drafting Jordan Davis over Kyle Hamilton is still has real estate in my mind. I still need better production out of that spot. Let's go. Where do we go? Let's get to some comments real quick. Brad Eclipse says, can we talk about how awful CJ Gardner-Johnson was? He did take away that interception from Quinyon Mitchell. Melly says, I think it's a numbers game with the defense. If our offense was better, the defense wouldn't be on the field so much. Eventually, an opposing offense is going to figure something out. We have a comment, Ryan would find positives in a nuclear war.
Hey, we need that guy. Y'all should have seen Ryan on the Birds of the Round Table after the first loss. There were no positives to be had there. There was lots of jokes about him looking like he had PTSD.
Well, yeah, I mean, I was down there at the game. It was a long, long day, and just the way they lost, it took me a few days to get the positive out. I got there eventually.
CJ, GJ doing what he did is proof that this defense is a bunch of guys trying to be the hero instead of working together. Jesus. I was a big Brian Branch guy as well. Don't get me started. Let's roll on to, I don't know. Should we get the player of the game? I think we should get the player. We're already 50 minutes into this thing. Shane, I'll throw it to you. Let's go around the horn. Who was your Eagles? Oh,
I did not mean to do that. Go ahead.
Who is your Eagles player of the game?
I mean, I'll give it to AJ Brown. AJ Brown, I thought, had a really good game. Targeted 9 times, comes up with 6 catches for 116 yards and a touchdown. He's so good at the catch point. Like, he's such a good deep ball tracker. And I think he doesn't, like, everybody knows he's good. I don't think everybody fully understands like how good he is at the catch point, because it's so smooth and it's so subtle, but the way that he like uses his body to stack a defender and generate contact to then accelerate into that throwing window. Like, he did it on the touchdown. He did it on the last play of the game. And Johnny said, I said those were underthrown, not by a lot. Maybe that's just where you throw the ball when you're throwing it to AJ Brown too. Like, maybe that's intentional because he is so good at setting that up. AJ Brown back makes all the difference for the offense. He gets my player of the game.
What about you, Johnny?
Yeah, sorry, my brain is just so distracted because I'm running the podcast now, but I'm just reading these Nick Sirianni tweets coming in from Les Bowen, and he's turned up to the press conference with his 3 kids there. And at one point, someone asked him, like, do you think the crowd was too positive? And he's polling his kids at the press conference, like, what do you think? Do you think they were booing too much? I'm like, what is going on? Could he go? Like, I'm honestly, Les, if you haven't gone on Les Bowen's Twitter, it's like bringing your kids up like end of season, like last game, like preseason. Like, I don't know. It's like the don't fire me, I have children. It's really strange. Like, the comments are just strange. Yeah, I don't know. But yeah, he was polling the kids on whether the crowd was loud for the Browns at crucial times. Like, what is going on? Anyway. Yeah, just if you haven't seen all that stuff, just look at it. Yeah, people basically, Les is saying it's very hard for journalists to ask very tough questions when the guy's sitting there with all 3 kids on his table. It's like, it's not very professional, is it? Let's put it that way. I don't know if he's just coming in, by the way, from Nathan as well, saying the deep ball to Hurts to seal the game was an audible from Jalen Hurts. If it was, it wouldn't surprise me at all, by the way. People are going to hate it, but Jalen Hurts and AJ Brown love it. He loves buddy ball. Seeing as he's brought it up, let's go. Player of the game is AJ Brown, and I could say someone else, but I'll leave it to Ryan to somehow say someone else. So, okay, you want to actually go someone else?
Yeah, we all got to pick different players.
All right. I'll save the obvious one for Ryan then, and I'll go with a very strange one. I will go with Moro Ajomo, because I love Ajomo, and I think he might be becoming an actual pass rusher now. So just to annoy everyone, because I don't really have anyone else other than AJ Brown to say, I'm just going to throw out Moro Ajomo. And if I say Jalen Hurts, people accuse me of being even more biased. So I'm not going to say Jalen Hurts because then people would abuse me. So there we go. Let's throw out Moro Ajomo, and then I'll let Ryan take why I think is the layup. Yeah, sorry, Shane, go for it. Somebody
asked me during the game who that Ajomo guy was, and I was like, "You obviously don't follow Johnny." But second of all, on the Hurts audibling into that play, it wouldn't surprise me at all. Like, I don't think Hurts is just like, screw that, we're not running the ball here. Like, I'm sure they came up to the line with like, hey, this is the run call, but if we get this look, you're throwing it to 8. Like, I don't think Hurts is just mutinying on the offense there. He's coming up with a package play and checking into that. So, would be my guess. But anyways, go ahead, Ryan. Which linebacker or tight end are you picking?
Listen, first I'd like to say that Johnny almost killed Dibes with that selection. He was drinking some whatever he was and almost killed him. So thank God. Yeah, thank God you're still with us. Yeah, obviously, since Hurts is still out there, I am going to not say Gainwell. He can go to the moon. No, obviously it's Hurts. He had a clean game. I thought he was efficient in his run choices, throwing the ball. Yeah, you can hate him for all you want for that last throw to AJ, but it was nice to have AJ and Smitty out there with him as well. Now we just need Dallas, and we might actually have an offense that's humming. But yeah, he deserves it because again, clean game is a clean game is a clean game.
Right, sorry, I've stitched myself up here. That wasn't the layup. The layup was Cooper DeJean. I thought DeJean was the other layup. So now I would have taken Cooper DeJean now, and I was saving him for you. I didn't think you were going to take Jalen Hurts.
It's hard for me to
based
say.
on my Twitter, everyone hates Jalen Hurts, so I didn't think any of us would take him. My Twitter timeline absolutely hates him now.
You're right, and people do. They love it. It's like a fun thing to do, is to hate on Hurts. And I honestly, unless you are just going to wreck a game, I'm never going to call a defensive player of the game.
Yeah, well, I would like to. Not that I can change my pick, but it would have been Cooper DeJean. But I thought that was the layup. So apologies for picking a Jomo.
Have both. You deserve it. You deserve it for picking a Jomo.
This is the storyline to watch. With Jordan Mailata, I think, was carted to the locker room with a hamstring. Was a hamstring, I think. Definitely something to keep an eye on. Those are all good. I was going to go Cooper, but I'll go Brandon Graham. First ever to play 200 games. Had that huge tackle for loss. I feel like this guy just makes play after play after play, week in, week out. It's going to be a sad day when he hangs it up, man. But Brandon Graham's arguably the best defensive player on the Eagles right now.
They're going to convince him to play until he's 50.
Player coach.
Please. Yeah, don't go. We still need.
We can't afford it.
Yeah, we haven't drafted an edge player.
You've drafted everyone on the defensive line, and he's still better than everything you've got. Anyway, give some love to Brandon Graham, man. Respect
for sure.
We have a comment. Fred Johnson gets a Dragon Ball power up when he has to come in for Lane or Jordan.
Yeah, but if you give him the whole week to prepare to be starter, it's a disaster.
Right.
Disaster's strong. People were too mean on Fred Johnson last week. Disaster's harsh. He was fine. He was fine.
All right, Shane, play that beautiful music, man.
All right. So each and every week we put out on Twitter a solicitation for your 3-word reactions to the game, and we read some of them on the air. So you guys head over to the Eagles Pin Poll Twitter account at Eagles Pin Poll after the game and drop your 3-word comments. We'll read some of them on the show. You can also put them in the chat here on YouTube. But we've got Max says play calling, discipline, head work. And then he clarified with a thumbs down emoji, which I guess an emoji is not a word, so that counts. We will take that for 3 words. Kevin says not like that. Peace like Frog. Peace Frog like says, please fire Nick. JCW says barely beat Browns, which, by the way, I mean, if you're trying to cram it into 3 words, eliminating articles is great. So just drop the Jason says less than impressed. Down says should have been a blowout, which is definitely cheating, but it's also kind of how we talk in the South. So we'll take it. Should have been a blowout. We can cram that into 3 words. The casual stuff says that was uninspiring. Max has a fire Nick anyway. I mean, you can't. He brought his kids to the press conference.
Right.
Max also said Calcaterra, legend born.
Nice.
And then finally, Robert said about the same. So there we have some of your guys' 3-word reactions. My 3-word reaction to the game is concerned about injuries. It really stinks that the Eagles needed that early bye week to get healthy. And then you have multiple players, especially stacking injuries at cornerback in this game. So I will nervously await the injury report this week.
All right. We have some comments on YouTube. Keep them coming, guys. Eagles game in 3 words or less. Finally, no turnovers. Losing to Giants. QB1, great game. Arthur Juan Brown. That's awesome. I love that one. That was my favorite so far. DeJean looks good. Special teams awful.
A lot more than 3.
That's way more than 3. Look at the title of the show, man. That's all I'm going to say.
Hey, we didn't say how many 3-word responses they could have, but each response is limited to 3 words. And no part 1, part 2, part 3, none of that stuff. I'm on to you guys, and you're cheating out here.
My 3 words, not good enough. I thought the Eagles would win by 1 score. I thought this was going to be a close game. But at the end of the day, it's how it happened. I still have major concerns about Nick Sirianni. And I'll throw it to you, Ryan. What's your Eagles game in 3 words or less?
I don't know if this is more of a summation of the game. Is it more or less of kind of my thoughts that just spoke to me? And I know it's not really fiscally responsible, but I don't really care. Trade away Slay.
Need more Tito's?
Yeah, well, that too, but trade away Slay.
Wow.
Don't need him.
I don't know about that. I hear you. I
want to make it clear for the people that only listen on podcasting platforms that I gave a big thumbs down when Ryan said that. So,
Johnny, what is your take?
Yeah, I'm going to go with a shut up, Nick. I'm sorry, I'm making this podcast so long, but BLG has tweeted today that apparently Nick Sirianni said he called the 3rd and 1 play where Jalen Hurts got sacked. Now, of course, that could be coach speak, but then he also said at one point he made a defensive call instead of Vic Fangio today. So read into that what you will. If Nick Sirianni is now calling defensive plays when he feels like it as well. My hot take is I think he might get fired this week after a win.
Would that be the first time in history? Has that ever happened before?
The stuff I'm reading is bizarre. Like, what do you mean you just made a call on defense? What, you just spoke to Fangio? Like, we're on cover 8 here. Like, what? What do you mean you called a defensive play? And that 3rd and 1 that was a horrendous play call. And I'm pretty sure it was like 4. It looked like 4 verts to me. It looked like it was everyone down the field. And then you could just say he's been a good coach and coming out and like saying like I called the bad play. It's my fault, but. You don't need to say that on defense. Why would you say you called a defensive play? That's like the weirdest thing I've ever heard. What head coach comes out and says, like, what? I don't know. That is bizarre. That is absolutely bizarre. So I'll go with a shut up, Nick. And I'm finding it very hard to enjoy this team while he is still the head coach, which sort of sucks because I like a lot of the players as well.
Yeah,
I am ready to say if Kellen Moore becomes the interim head coach for this team, the Eagles get it together and go on a run. I'm saying.
I don't understand why Nick is so hell bent on like protecting everybody. Like that is a perfect example. I called this play. Oh, that was me. My bad. Like, oh no, he didn't do that. Like that was all me. Like, and nobody believes you, man. Like, no one. So just be honest for the love of God. It's annoying.
Time for Kellen. I like that one.
Nice.
Yeah, I feel like every week I say the same thing. Halftime show, post-game show, birds of the round table, party on broad. Like Nick Sirianni just needs to get out of his way. And then the offense finally starts to get into rhythm. We haven't seen it in 4 quarters, but it's there. Let's wrap it up. Shane, final thoughts on this one. Plugs, time is yours.
It should be an interesting week. I'm excited to dive into the film, so make sure you are following the Eagles Pinpool Network. Johnny and I will be live in the midweek going through the all 22. I'm sure I'm going to be taking a look at Cooper DeJean so I can sing some more praises, hopefully, and not have to back off my comment there. But make sure you're following all of these guys, following along with the network. We just added another show this week, and so we've got a lot of great stuff coming your way. So please go check it out. Download Eagles Pinpool Network wherever you stream podcasts.
Ryan, anything you want to plug? Final thoughts?
Yeah. It was an ugly game, but let's move on and pray to God that we don't get embarrassed by the Giants. But anyway, yeah, you can follow me on X at Philly Sports PSA. Usually doing about 100 shows with Dibes. And Birds of the Roundtable returns to its normal scheduled programming time on Tuesday. And yeah, I'm around. And like I said, on other shows, I'm available for hire. Bar mitzvahs, weddings, whatever you name it. I'm around.
All right, Johnny, you're up, man.
Yeah, I mean, I still think this team's got a lot of good players, and I still think they could be really good. And I think if they get their own way, based on my timeline, Nick Sirianni is fully like the most hated man in Philadelphia. I don't know whether Jeffrey Leary's got a burner account or something, but if he's on Eagles Twitter tonight, there could be a phone call coming down soon. Like, it feels like it's a really odd week when you win and everyone hates the head coach. It's going to be a fun week though. Press conferences will be fun. I think film's going to be interesting. I think there's going to be a lot of takes. So I think you can't accuse a team of being as boring for people like us. There is a hell of a lot to talk about this week, so it'll be a fun one.
All right, guys, we'll be back for Birds of the Round Table on Tuesday night, breaking down everything you saw here tonight. And keep an eye out for all the amazing work from Shane and Johnny with the All 22. He is Shane. I am Ryan. I am Types.
Wow.
I am Johnny. Too much.
That was weird.
We are wrapping it up, guys. Thanks for watching. Stay awesome.